It's my distinct pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Dr. Ebony Boulware. Ebony originally hailed from Providence, Rhode Island, got her undergraduate degree at Vassar College, came to Duke for her medical training, and subsequently got a master in public health at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She did her internship and residency at University of Maryland and a fellowship at Johns Hopkins. And at Johns Hopkins, she stayed on as faculty and rose through the faculty of the School of Medicine and School of Public Health to the rank of professor of medicine, professor of epidemiology. Came to Duke in 2013, where she is a professor of medicine and faculty associate at the Trent Center for Bioethics, Humanities, and the History of Medicine. Her current CV lists 113 peer-reviewed publications, most of which are really broadly focused on renal disease, transplantation, and health disparities. She's got an impressive list of invited lectures, panels, and visiting professorships. Even more impressive are her list of mentees that she's had contact with at numerous stages of their career. Her funding lists a broad portfolio of contracts and grants, most notably now the Duke Translational Science Award, CTSI, that I'm sure we'll hear about today, where she is the contact PI. She's currently Vice Dean for Translational Science, Associate Vice Chancellor for Translational Research, and Director of the Duke Clinical and Translational Science Institute. Ebony, welcome to the CFAR retreat. We all look forward to your talk.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kent. I think that's the first time anybody's ever mentioned Providence. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, so it goes all, that was where I was born. That's where I hail from, but I was only there for, I think, a couple of years, and then my parents raised me in Ohio, so. But I like it. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to talk to you today. I was really asked to come talk about what is CTSA and what's CTSI and how we can partner with CFAR. And so what I thought I would do is just give you a little bit of a backdrop as to sort of what drives our organization, and then run through with you some examples of activities. I've had a chance to really think a little bit about CFAR, going to the website and talking to faculty, et cetera, and I think there are a number of opportunities for us to collaborate together to accelerate translation. I think we have very common goals between the two organizations. So as a little bit of a backdrop to why we have clinical and translational science awards and institutes, a lot of it is really focused on sort of what I think about the common 21st century health problems. So I'm going to be running through those, talking to you a little bit about the CTSI and how it seeks to address those, and then some emerging opportunities. So we've had a number of advances overall in biomedical science over the past many years, and I graduated from medical school here in 1995, and I cannot believe the number of advances that we have now relative to even when I did my residency training. You know, we've had the Human Genome Project, we've now got stem cell research that's really yielding a lot of amazing advances. We've got, you know, relative to here, you know, obviously major advances in the treatment of HIV. I can't even believe how different it is than when I was a resident. I never dreamed that I would be seeing 70-year-olds in my primary care clinic now with chronic conditions, which is really unbelievable, having interns and residents walk in and say that, when I remember when we were really dealing with AIDS just every day. So we've really made amazing advances. We've had just so many advances that, you know, cure of hepatitis C, the use of targeted immunotherapy is also changing the face of medicine. And so it's really an amazing time where we've got a staggering pace of development. And yet we kind of still have many, many challenges. I don't know if you all remember, there was this push for the 21st Century Cures Act, which was to get NIH funding, and there was a lot of publicity in Congress talking about we have over 7,000 diseases and only 500 treatments. And really, the estimate, there are more than 7,000 diseases, at least according to the World Health Organization, probably about 10,000 plus that have been categorized. But we have very few treatments, particularly for those conditions where there are 200,000 people or less in the United States that have these conditions. And so what is on the bottom of the slide is the cumulative FDA orphan drugs approved. So these are drugs for conditions for which there are 200,000 people or less in the country. And as you can see, there's been some improvement from 2008 to 2016, but not a lot of improvement. There's a long way to go, and there are a lot of people out there who are suffering with conditions that aren't totally rare and unheard of, but they just don't have good treatments. At the same time, when we do have proven therapies, it takes a long time for them to get into use in the general public. So this was data from a meta-analysis recently done where they were looking at proven treatments where multiple clinical trials had been done, clinical guidelines had been issued, and just mental health interventions, cardiovascular screening, public health, psychosocial, and showing that the time lag was at least an average of 17 years, but if you look at some of them, up to 50 years time lag to get proven treatments into the public's hands. So that's I think a huge challenge that we try to overcome through programs like CFAR and CTSA, is how to get what we're doing, the great work that we're doing, out into the public. We do have other challenges. We have chronic conditions on the rise. We've got about 120 million adults with at least one chronic health condition, and 1 in 3 has at least one type of cardiovascular disease. We've got lots of inequities in health. This data on the left-hand side, I guess I can turn around here, is showing, this is well, I guess I can't. This is the incidence, without falling, of end-stage renal disease in the United States. And this is a disease that I work in, but it's one of the diseases where there are very, very stark ethnic and racial disparities in the incidence, 4 to 6-fold time increase in incidence among African Americans compared to others. And then if you look on the right-hand side, we've got the rate of physician-diagnosed diabetes among adults, and so you've got it clustered among whites on the left-hand side, blacks, non-Hispanic blacks in the middle set of bars, and then non-white Hispanics in the right-hand set of bars. And what you see here is that, and they're stratified by education, so the dark blue bars being folks with less than high school education, the orange bars being those with high school education, some college, and you can see is there's an increased prevalence of diagnosed diabetes among blacks and minorities, and that prevalence actually changes based on your education level, so illustrating sort of the combined effects of not just race, but also socioeconomic factors like access to education on health. We also have inequities in health care. This is data that came from the Kaiser Family Foundation looking at people who did not receive or had delayed care over a 12-month time period, and it's stratified by race. On what you can see are on the left-hand side, the proportion of non-elderly adults who delayed their care due to cost, and by race you can see that ethnic and racial minorities more likely to delay their care due to cost or delay it due to other reasons. And yet we spend more money for our health care with comparable or less. Actually, Rob Califf showed a very interesting slide yesterday in the data science meeting showing that we have worse health expectancy than most of our peers, and we're spending quite a bit more. But our U.S. health expectancy is actually going down for the first time in 20 or 40 years. So we really are spending a lot. So what this is data, this is per capita healthcare spending on the x-axis, and then average life expectancy on the y-axis, and then each little dot is a country, and the darker blue dots are high-income countries, and the yellow dots are low-income countries. And what you can see is that United States is all the way out on the right in terms of spending per capita, but we have comparable, if not less, health in terms of average life expectancy than countries that are also high income. And now I'm going to turn just a little bit to the quality of health care. This was data that came from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Harvard School of Public Health, and they just did a national questionnaire asking people about their perspectives on their health and health care, and found that only a third of the patients rated it as excellent. I guess if you look at it with a positive light, you could say, well, it looks like about 75% said good or excellent. You could also say, well, close to 30% said it was fair or poor. So I think we do have some work to be done there in terms of how we're delivering care to people as well. So I think these are a range of different types of challenges that we're facing right now in our biomedical complex and in terms of how we deliver care to people. And there's a need for us to really focus on rapid, relevant scientific discoveries. So we clearly need discoveries to address the need of the population. We need to account for growing population health needs as diseases, and including HIV, becomes a chronic disease, another chronic disease. We need to figure out how to account for that. People are getting multiple chronic diseases now, and so now we're facing increasingly complexity in how we treat and care for patients. We want to improve patients' healthcare experiences, and then we also want to enhance the quality, equity, and the value of the care that we deliver. So, the answer to all of that is the Clinical and Translational Science Award. No, it is not, but this is the hope of NIH, I guess. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the CTSAs and the Clinical and Translational Science Awards. And they were really designed, as envisioned by Elias Zerhouni many years ago, as a way to try to help accelerate the race with scientific advances, kind of make it into public benefit. And this has been, I think they're in their 4th or 5th cycle probably now. The program's been around for quite some time. And the goal is to really help academic health systems really rev up their infrastructures and programs and processes to help advance all of these causes to address these needs. So this is how the CTSA program, this is an NIH award, and this is how they describe themselves. Designed to develop innovation solutions that will improve the efficiency, quality, and impact of the process for turning observations in the laboratory, clinic, and community into interventions that improve the health of individuals and the public. I think it's really important for us to just anchor there, because what I'm going to talk to you about the CTSA and CTSI program is I'm going to show you programs that really go across a very broad array of activities at the institution. And the reason that is because our challenge and our goal is really to address this imperative, which is quite broad. So when we talk about the Clinical and Translational Science Awards that are issued by NIH, there are about 64 institutions that have them. And these are big institutional awards that range from about 60 million total, which is what the size of ours is at Duke, to around 30 million for smaller institutions, or maybe a little bit less. And you can see they're spread across the United States. And there's some relevance to that, as I'll talk to you a little bit later, about how these groups are becoming networked and working together across the institutions. At each institution, the goal is to address your own needs at your institution to help contribute to the overall national goal of advancing translation. So here at Duke, we have a Clinical and Translational Science Institute, and we have a vision which is to catalyze scientific discoveries into health benefits for patients and communities through partnerships and collaboration. Our mission is to accelerate scientific discovery, innovation, and translation, develop and support a vital and diverse translational science workforce, and foster a vibrant, transparent, and trustworthy research environment benefiting all. The CTSA, so CTSI, which is an administrative platform that is based within the School of Medicine, and it's directed under the Office of the Chancellor and the Dean, is the largest award that we have, but CTSI actually has a number of other groups or activities that are within the CTSI umbrella. So in addition to the Clinical and Translational Science Award, which I'll talk about the most today, we also are the administrative home for the Mobile App Gateway. I don't know if folks have heard of that, but this is a new program here at Duke where if you have a mobile app that you want to develop either for research or for clinical care, you can go to this Mobile App Gateway and get some consultation on how to develop an app that either within Duke or outside of Duke, and also helping you to sort of make sure that this app in the future would be able to fit into the Duke environment. There's also the Primary Care Research Consortium, which is a consortium of primary care clinics here at Duke, is based within, which conducts research and allows investigators to come and propose research to recruit participants from primary care, is based within CTSI. We also have Translational Population Health Research Center, which is Murdoch's study. As I don't know if folks should have heard of the Murdoch study, but that's in Kannapolis. It's a population-based study where enrollees and families have come in to have a number of assessments done and have given blood and a number of other types of specimens to be able to do full omics analyses. People do a variety of different types of studies in the Kannapolis and in the Murdoch study. We have something called the Preclinical Translational Research Unit, which is one of the School of Medicine cores, which allows investigators who need help with moving their work from in the early preclinical translational phase forward. So for example, if they need to do some mouse studies or mouse models, but they don't have that in their own lab, they can utilize this core for that kind of a service. We also have the Center for Community and Population Health Improvement, which I run, and our core activities there are really trying to galvanize community-engaged research that's focused on pragmatic interventions. We do a lot of partnering with community stakeholders such as Durham County Public Health and Lincoln Community Health Center. One of our signature efforts right now is focused on democratizing the data that is collected in healthcare, in our healthcare system here at Duke and at Lincoln, and getting that out to the public in a publicly available website called the Durham Neighborhood Compass. And then we have a new program called the National Clinician Scholars Program. Duke is one of 6 sites where we're going to be hosting nurses and physicians who are interested in health policy and clinical research coming here to do some postdoctoral training. So there are a number, as I mentioned, so back to the CTSA, which is that large NIH grant. This feeds a lot of our infrastructures here at Duke, including our Office of Clinical Research, our Office of Regulatory Affairs. Until this most recent cycle, we've been funding all of the informatics core for the institution. Now the institution is taking that on so we can do some new things. But there are a number of investigator services that we support, including Biostatistics Core, a Community Engagement Center, a Special Population Center, a Recruitment Innovation Center, training programs, informatics, and pilot funding. So I'm going to run through some of these just so you can be aware. And I think one of the goals that I really had in coming to talk to you is just that you can be aware. Everybody's asking me, what is CTSA and what is CTSI? So I spent a lot of my time really trying to let people know, giving you a flavor of what we can do to help you with your research. And I think as we think about how CFAR in the various cores that you have, how we can collaborate along these efforts, because I know there are similarities in the way CFAR is organized and the way that that the CTSA program is organized. But there's also a lot that you could take advantage of within CTSA. All right, so one of the most popular things are our training opportunities within CTSA. And we have both a KL2 program, which is an early K award, and this is for people throughout any kind of science that you do. When we talk about in the CTSA, when we talk about translation, we're talking about anything from lab all the way through population. A lot of times I hear the terminology used here at Duke that translational, you've got to be doing something that's going from the lab into human. There's a context around translational. We think about translation in the most broad terms. It can be any kind of science from the lab all the way to, you can be doing focus groups or population-based studies. So, and so we have a KL2 program, and if you're an early career scientist and you're trying to get your career jump-started, the KL2 program is an internal K program. We put out a call for applications once a year, and the focus of the KL2 are for faculty members who are looking to kind of develop transdisciplinary research skills, which I think pretty much everybody nowadays is looking in some ways, unless they're really pure basic science, to be working with some other type of scientist to enhance their research. We're focused on team science approaches and helping people learn how to work with people of various disciplines, and then also focused on promoting a diverse translational workforce. We have 3 KL2 scholars awarded a year. These are some of the current KL2 scholars and some of the activities that they're doing. Michael Carey is from the School of Nursing. He's working on comorbidity clusters in older adults treated in inpatient rehab. We have Tony Sung, who is in the Department of Medicine, focusing on hematopoietic stem cell transplantation at home. Just a very fascinating, broad variety of the types of scholars, the kinds of work that the scholars are doing. This is just a snapshot, but I think that's one of the things that's really unique about the CTSA funding programs is that we're disease agnostic and discipline agnostic. We also have our TL1 program, and this in TL1 is for well, now it's pre and postdoctoral training. In the past, we'd had training for medical students or pre-docs. This is David Edelman, who directs it with some scholars. Right now, we have both pre and postdoc training slots. And so we're looking for people who are looking for a postdoc experience. They may not be faculty yet, but they need a little bit of early training, and you can get degree with that as well as postdoctoral fellow training. And that call, the directors of that are Sally Permar and David Edelman, and so that call has gone out once for this year, but it goes out every year. Here are some of the types of research that these pre-docs have been doing. Mixed modeling of serum creatinine trajectories to assess acute kidney injury following cardiac surgery, impact of diabetes mellitus and glycemic control in lung transplant donors, on recipient survival, differentiated thyroid cancer treatment in the elderly. So it's very, very broad group, broad set of things that people are focused on. And here they are, the happy scholars, very proud. We do have some annual meetings nationally where the trainees will come and gather and get to present their work in the translational meetings. We also have something that's called workforce development. So we don't just focus on developing scientists, but we focus on developing staff and also the pipeline into research careers. We have a number of programs that are focused on undergrads or people who are interested in getting experience and getting exposed to research. We also support 2 master's degrees. One is the Master's of Management in Clinical Informatics and the Clinical Research Training Program. But there are a number of also staff development opportunities to help people develop skills in project leadership. So if people are interested in those, they can contact us as well. All right, our funding opportunities are probably our most popular thing that we have. And so we do have a number of pilots that we offer through CTSI, and I encourage everybody to go to the website or look out for those opportunities because they do come out several times a year. So first and foremost, and I'm not sure, I hope we actually may or may not have it here, but we have 2 kind of flagship programs for our pilots. We have regular pilots that are within Duke, and I think they can be up to $150,000 per pilot. And then we have something called transformative pilots, which are quite large, $500,000 for somebody who's really got something that's very, very promising but very high risk, where you can go in. And so Matthias Gromeyer with the glioblastoma is one that we funded in that category. So I think if you have something that's high risk but potentially very high reward, I encourage you to put in for a transformative pilot through the CTSA. And then I think the $150,000 pilots are pretty big as well. So if you have an idea and you need to move that forward, going for a CTSA pilot is great. We do have also collaborative pilots, which encourage faculty to work with other faculty at other CTSAs or other institutions close by. So we have a collaborative pilot with UNC, which has a CTSA. We have a collaborative pilot with NC State, which does not have its own CTSA, but has a really strong engineering program, as well as other very strong programs that we collaborate with. And then we have something called the Carolinas Collaborative, which is a collaborative of Duke, UNC, and Wake Forest, which has their own CTSA. So we have a number of different collaborative pilots, and usually these pilots encourage investigators from these institutions to come together on a common idea you want to build, and then you can get pilot funding. So I talked a little bit about our 2 types of internal awards, the accelerator funding and the transformative research agreements. One thing I'll say about these internal Duke awards is that it's not just that you get the money, you actually get project management. What our pilot really focus on is helping investigators actually be successful with those pilots so that you get really strong pilot project leaders that help establish, sort of pull the team together, establish key benchmarks, and then at the end help think about what's the next step of my research? How am I going to get this? Say that the next step is for me to get this into industry or in front of industry. How do I do that? So professionals that really help you move your pilot forward. So this has been a very successful program for us, and it's a little bit different from many pilots where you just kind of get the funding and run. We've had a lot of success with our pilots program and partnering with other groups like the Coulter Foundation, which is a biomedical engineering, a foundation that funds biomedical engineering pilots. Over $8 million awarded with a lot of follow-on funding, several projects, and several licenses to industry. So this is a very successful program, and I encourage you to apply for it if you have interest. And then we do have another set of new pilots called Population Health Improvement Awards. And these awards are really to help you think about working with community, developing, if you need to develop community collaborative projects or projects with stakeholders around the community. We have seed awards, which are just for ideas generation. So say you are interested in doing a program where you're involved with the community, or you want to develop a community-based intervention, but you just don't know who to contact, how to get people together, and just get started with that. Well, we have something called a seed award or Sparks program, where you can actually come together and meet with community stakeholders. We will help you do that, and even just generate ideas for your research. And then if you decide that you want to move forward with a partner to develop an award with that partner, maybe they're going to be a clinical site, or they're going to be more engaged in developing the idea or measuring outcomes, you can do a co-development award where you get money to actually develop a project. And then there are advanced partnership awards to actually move something forward. So a number of areas there. Right. So I wanted to show you just two examples of kinds of pilots that are being funded by CTSI related to the work that CFAR is focused on. One is a collaborative pilot between Ann Dennis at UNC and Lance Okeke here at Duke, and they are focused on defining HIV-transmitted drug-resistant trends in North Carolina with phylogenetics. And the goal has been to analyze genetic information on HIV strains infecting North Carolinians to track the spread of the resistance mutations across the state over time using a statewide data set. And they concluded that there's moderate transmitted drug resistance and persistent in North Carolina, and it's driven predominantly by the resistance to specific drugs. And so that's an example of a successful pilot that was brought two investigators together from two different institutions. And then Amy Cornelia, who I see is here, also has a pilot, a population health improvement pilot, engaging Black men who have sex with men in the development of HIV prevention programs in Durham. And I don't know, you might actually be talking about that or giving a presentation. Oh, okay, no, all right, then I can talk about it then and brag about it. So she's got a collaboration with a group called Triangle Empowerment Center to engage Black men who have sex with men in identifying strategies for promoting the uptake of PrEP and the retention of PrEP and care. And some of the activity that she's doing is community mapping to identify spaces where to engage Black men who have sex with men, and exploring new potential community partnerships and collaborations to improve HIV prevention outreach. Is that okay? All right, good. So these are the opportunities that are available today. Like I said, we have deadlines that come up. I think what's important is to really, I know we all get inundated by these newsletters and my own eyes just glaze over. But if you look at the CTSI ones, we do have deadlines that come up, and there are, usually there's funding in there. So just take a look at those. All right. CTSA also and CTSI also contribute to a number of research resources that you should be aware of. I know Shanita is here. Community engagement is one of the things that we focus quite a bit on in CTSA and CTSI, because increasingly we're finding that investigators want and need to engage with community stakeholders around their research, either it's to identify ideas, to conduct research and partnerships as clinical sites, or in disseminating our information, disseminating what we know into the community. And so we have a number of activities related around community engagement to build capacity for community engagement here at Duke, facilitate connections, and then foster sort of authentic relationships with our community stakeholders. There is a long history, as with most academic institutions, where the local community feels disenfranchised by our our research enterprise, and feels very much that, while there are people who are doing a lot of research, often the community doesn't hear what happened with that research, doesn't know the benefits of that research. And I think the long-term impact of that is fostering a feeling of mistrust or a lack of transparency. So a lot of what we try to do through community engagement is to really create easier ways for us to outreach, get information out, and partner with our community around things that our community cares about too, so that they feel that the work that we're doing is very responsive to their needs. So we do have, if you're interested in getting involved in community or being engaged with the community, we have consultation and matchmaking services. There's a program called P-Cares, in which people from the community are being trained to become advisors on research and being aware of what research is. We do have the Population Health Improvement Awards, which I mentioned. There are community enrichment tours. If you're an investigator and you don't know a whole lot about Durham and you want to learn about Durham and the history of Durham, we have community enrichment tours. We're in the process of developing an e-library of tools for researchers to learn about how to engage with community and get skills. And then the Sparks program was one of the Population Health Improvement Awards, where basically if you want to get together and create ideas with community stakeholders, we'll provide you with resources for that. There's a number of successes that we've had with our community engagement programs, including the development of successful R01s, development of successful engagement with community stakeholders. This is an example of Saran Wheeler, who's a faculty member in OBGYN, and she's been working with the Diaper Bank of North Carolina to understand and eliminate barriers to a 17P, which is for preterm birth prevention, a form of progesterone in non-Hispanic Black women. We also have a number of connections between NCCU and other local educational organizations around research. We also have national partnerships. The AME Zion is a national partnership that we have that's very much focused here in North Carolina. This is the consortium of AME Zion Church, which is very much engaged now and interested in how to be engaged in clinical trials and be engaged in research. And so we've got leaders from AME Zion from around the country, and in specific in North Carolina, where I think we have probably the heaviest concentration of AME Zion churches, actually being trained. These are pastors, church leaders coming in and being trained, learning about research and being advocates for participation in clinical research and wanting to be engaged in clinical trials. So if you're somebody who is interested in engaging with a diverse population across North Carolina, this is an opportunity to potentially get engaged with research through that collaboration. And I talked a little bit about the other things that are on the slide. All right, I'm going to transition a little bit and talk to you just about other types of things that we support through CTSI. So I don't know, how many of you have gone to My Research Home? All right, getting there. Okay, so My Research Home, if you haven't been there, go to it, because one thing is, so I will admit, the only way I could get to the IRB until I started getting onto My Research Home was through Google. I just type in Duke EIRB and I would somehow get there. Now, I can actually go through a Duke portal, which is called My Research Home, and if you go there, it's a customizable platform that you can have where you can get to the applications that you need to get to. So say you've got your EIRB and any number of applications. Actually, you can customize and put anything that you want to put in there and get to your links. But you can also look at your research funding portfolio. You can look at all the trainings that are due for you, like when is your city training due, when are all these different trainings that you need done. You can see all the announcements that are tailored to the kind of research that you do for grant funding. So I would encourage you to go there. This is what it looks like. And you can basically tailor this so that you can have things all located in one. And then we have a program also called Research Navigator. I know if you're like me, when I came to Duke, I just felt like I was walking through a forest and I'd trying to figure out how to get something. And I was lucky. I talked to this person and say, okay, talk to that person, now talk to that person. Well, actually, we do have a program now called of Research Navigators, and there are 4 of them here, and they actually know a lot about Duke and research across the campus. So if you need to get something or find a collaborator or find a service that you don't know where it is, contact My Research Navigators, and that's on My Research Home. But that is a wonderful service. People have really, their expertise goes all the way from the bench all the way through data science, population health. So there's really a great resource there. So I encourage you to use this, My Research Home. And they also have an email, myresearchnavigators@Duke. Okay, so I showed you that picture of all the 64 CTSAs around the country. And one of the things that's really interesting is that all those 64 CTSAs have an electronic health record. Pretty much most are probably on Epic. And what's happening is that now that all these places are linked up, there's a desire to really utilize that network to identify participants for clinical research studies or to connect investigators across institutions. And so there's something called the Trial Innovation Network that is supported through the CTSA program nationally. It links all the institutions, and what it does, and actually we are a coordinating center here at DCRI. We're one of the 3 coordinating centers in the country. And so if you have a study where you've got a rare population, somebody has something very rare and you can't get enough people at Duke, you want to be able to you're going to have to get people around the country, but you don't know who to contact. This is a resource for you. You can identify study collaborators. You can actually ping electronically the electronic health records to figure out what the frequency of people are that have the condition you're looking for, and then you can begin to run, and then they'll also help you with developing a multi-center trial, essentially. So this is a resource if you're interested in multi-center clinical trials, or let's say you're more of a lab researcher, you have something that you think is ready for clinical trial, you can actually you're ready for something where you need a clinical trial, you can actually come here and they will help you figure out if you're appropriate for this infrastructure. But the idea is really to help investigators take what they have. They may not be a trialist and they can actually do a trial. There's an example of a colleague at Rockefeller who does platelet research, and they were interested in taking their work into clinical trials. He's a lab researcher. He used the Trial Innovation Network and was able to set up, with their support, a funded NIH clinical trial. We also have a new activity called Get Data at Duke. One of the things I hear most commonly when I go around and talk to investigators is, how do we get access to the data? And I guess the data can be our Duke Health System data, which we've made a lot of progress in making it available to you. So you can get to our Duke Epic data through Deduce, but also just you can get access to the data just, and you can use something called PACE, the Protected Analytic it's a protected analytic workspace where you can actually work with PHI data in a protected space where you can actually work with it in a virtual setting. So there's a lot of ways you can get access to that data. But what we're also doing is compiling data sets from people around the institution who has data, and we're creating a whole searchable database so you can figure out if there's a condition you're interested in working on, somebody else may have actually collected the data, or you're interested but they have a different population, that data is available. That'll now all be logged so that you can find that. So this is an ongoing effort, Get Data at Duke. We also have a research methods core. I know you have a methods core in CFAR as well. Our methods core really kind of reaches and has tendrils across the institution. We're expanding the scope of it to go from very biomedically oriented all the way through population health sciences and even more qualitative methods, et cetera. And so that we really are broadening the scope of the support that we provide. I'd say if you're interested in getting access to, maybe you have some support here in CFAR, but maybe there are different types of support that CTSI may be able to connect you to. If you don't have, depending on the kinds of support that you have, we can be a resource for connecting you and liaising you to methods across the campus. All right, we also have consultation hours on research methods. So if you need help with you've got a study design question, we have office hours for that. The accelerator is our pilots program. If you want to learn about the pilots, we can connect with you on that. Community engagement, all of these programs, we have office hours. So I think one of the things is just to get into, I think the best place is to go to My Research Home at Duke, but also on our CTSI website. Okay. Let's see what else we have. I talked a little bit about the Center for Community and Population Health Improvement. I'd love to come back and talk to you at some point about opportunities to connect with that. Just briefly, what we're doing on this Durham Health Compass, as I mentioned, is we're taking More than 95% of the population that lives in Durham County actually receives their care either at Duke Health or at Lincoln Community Health Center. And so that what that means is that we have information on our local population in the communities that could be shared with the community to improve health. What we've done is there's now an arrangement where we provide summary reports to the Department of the County Public Health Department that then makes summary reports available to the community through something called the Durham Compass. And there are maps where you can say, okay, if I have a neighbor, you can look at all the neighborhoods in Durham, and you can first off look at social and environmental determinants of health like crime statistics, housing quality, and a number of other sort of socially, environmentally relevant data. And now we're providing health data to overlap with that. So if you were interested in looking at where are there concentrations of HIV, well, we're not doing HIV right now, but I'm not sure if we have to talk with the community about how the community wants to see that kind of data. But let's take right now, we have diabetes, COPD, heart disease, and kidney disease. And so we can say, where are the concentrations of these conditions greater? And then we can begin to correlate those with the social and environmental determinants of health that are happening in those areas as well. And so I'm thinking there's an opportunity for us to think about how what CFAR does may be community relevant, and thinking about how we can make data available to our community about health relative to that. So that's something that we do within the Center for Community and Population Health Improvement. I talked a little bit about the preclinical translational research unit, which is a core here, shared resource here in the dean's office, focusing on helping people design animal models if they're not animal researchers, providing a GLP compliant environment, focus on giving you, helping you with your work if you're preclinical, but you sort of don't have the infrastructure in your own lab. I talked about Kannapolis and the Murdoch study, which is a registry of 12,000 adults, with phenotypic data as well as biospecimens, available for a number of sub-studies. There are a number of funded NIH studies that are at the Kannapolis website, at the Kannapolis campus. Project Baseline is an interesting program that we have going on right now in Kannapolis. This is a partnership between Duke and Verily Life Sciences, which is Google, and it's actually both at Kannapolis as well as here in Durham, where we're recruiting data on over 10,000 participants over the course of, we actually are getting close to the end of the first couple of years, where people are wearing wearables, they're actually coming in for full-blown, detailed physical examinations and filling out questionnaires. And so this will be one of the first examples where we'll have sort of above the skin and below the skin kind of data on that can help phenotype and people, and thinking about how we can leverage the skill of a Google and the power of a Google with biomedical research. And we'll have access to data that we collect here at Duke, a sort of first dibs on it, and then the data will become completely publicly available on these 10,000 individuals. And I mentioned the Clinician Scholars training. This is a new program. It was formerly a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation program, and the goal is to train clinicians to become the next generation of leaders in health system reform and policy research. They're two-year postdoc fellowships for MDs or nurses. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to skip through this, although I just should let you know, one of the things that we do support here is the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality, where we do give a number of free consultations. If you have something that you need an IND or an IDE, or you need help with regulatory, we provide that kind of service. It's not only within CTSI, actually we support now within the School of Medicine, the school's office. I mentioned the Primary Care Research Consortium. I think if you're interested in clinical research in the working with the primary care, Duke does oversee a network of primary care providers participating in research, and so this is a resource. If you're looking to recruit people from primary care for your work, come to us, because we do have the Primary Care Research Network Consortium. And I mentioned the mobile app gateway. This was new in the last year and a half, supporting faculty and students who want to create mobile applications to support health-related research, and a lot of us are doing that now. It's a concierge service, and they'll help you figure out where you can get your apps developed. So I think that is sort of the summary. There's a lot there. I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to go to my research home, and it can get there, as well as the website. Contact me, but there's a big team. I think, there are a lot. I think one thing that's interesting when we're doing our own research, it's so hard to know what's around us. We have so much in our environment here at Duke. One of the things I really wanted to my main message for you is to really know that there are a lot of resources, and if we don't have it within CTSI, chances are somebody within CTSI knows how to connect you with a resource that you do or don't have. I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to partner between CFAR and CTSI, and over time I'm looking forward to talking with many of you about how we can extend the benefit of what CFAR is already doing by partnering with CTSI. So I'm happy to take any questions, but thank you.
Wow. That was a real tour de force. I had a question. The CTSA, kind of the Clinical Trials Consortium, is there any support for biobanking efforts? Because a lot of times what comes out of these conglomerate clinical trials is of interest, but there's nothing to go back to and do retrospective analyses as far as biospecimens concerned. I know Murdoch has biospecimens, but are there anything within the consortium?
So I would say they're developing. One of the things I also should let you guys know is that there's things called a collaborative UO1s that NCATS, which is the NIH institute that supports CTSA, does. And so that encouraging investigators to come from multiple different institutions to get a partnership award. There are some collaborative UO1s where some institutions are partnering to develop this kind, looking at the feasibility of this kind of consortium biobanking. It's not quite there yet, but I would suspect it's going to be coming very soon. That's not long off in the future. I think in some ways people are really trying to figure out how to leverage the connectivity across these different organizations so that we can really take full advantage of it. Let me say one more thing. We do have also R21s. There's a number, so a lot of people don't know about NCATS. So you may be going to the same NIH institute, but the National Center for Advancing Clinical and Translational Science does actually have its own R21s, its own R01s, its own UO1s. And so I encourage you to look there because of the broad focus, which is disease agnostic, much of the work that you're doing actually could fit in there. And so often when you're looking for that alternative kind of funding opportunity, go there because, and I got a lot of people who just don't really realize it. And then when they realize it, they're having success getting that funding. So I encourage people to go for that. And then they're often, we'll put out special announcements as well.
So along those lines of support that's provided when you have an accelerator grant with the program manager and so forth, would it be conceivable to have that support if you have an NCATS sponsored grant? Like, is there a connection there? Does that, you know what I'm getting at?
Not yet, but it would be nice. You mean, so if you have an NCATS, like, what kind of support are you thinking? Like, oh, like a project
manager, exactly.
Well, certainly we would be, so we would talk about that because one of the things that CTSI actually does is have a whole slew of program leaders. And so, yes, you could connect with our group, the accelerator group, to get that kind of support, absolutely. If you didn't have it and you really wanted to, absolutely.
And so the R mechanisms you're describing, there are RFAs through NCATS for those awards, or?
Yeah, they'll put out RFAs, or they even have I think they have some standing program announcements too, but they definitely put out a lot of RFAs. So that's why I say kind of look at some of these announcements because stuff is constantly coming out. And I actually can't keep up with it. There are just a lot of opportunities. There are even administrative supplements to the large CTSA award, and when they come out, sometimes you hit on something, yeah, and you get a big award, and it's actually pretty quick, but those are available. And right now, a lot of the focus is on opioids, so, pain, opioids, et cetera, so there are a lot of special announcements around that as well. Got one.
Thank you for an excellent overview. Does the CTSI ever support internationally based research?
It may. I actually don't have a good answer for that. I suspect probably it does. I don't know the full portfolio. I would just encourage, again, the website is to just go look at so you mean our CTSI. Most of it, I can't think of a whole lot of international stuff that we have, but I don't know that we're precluded from it. So I would, if you want to talk, we can look and see. I don't think we have a preclusion from it, and we pretty much though adhere to the NIH guidelines. The other thing is that the pilots do get reviewed, but then they actually have to go through a secondary approval process through NCATS. But I'd have to go back and look and see if there are any internationally focused, because there very well may be, particularly if it's translational, and you're saying you're going to translate from one setting to another setting.
One of the successful interactions we've had with other strategic partners is co-funding RFAs. And again, of what interest is HIV in perhaps a co-funding exercise with CTSA, because we're mandated to stay focused on HIV.
Right. I think it's a great interest. We love the idea of co-funding because it allows us to make our money go further. So what I would say is I'd love to talk to you guys at CFAR about the timing of the awards and when they're coming out, and then we have to do a little planning, but we like to be able to do that. A lot of these partnered awards that we had emerged in the last cycle, so we just constantly are thinking about how can we extend the impact, how can we help more groups, because I think more people can get funding, so we'd definitely be open to co-funding.
And again, that's a strength we have because we have matching funds from the School of Medicine too to throw into the pot, so it makes it a little bit more attractive.
Right, I think we should absolutely talk about that. We'd be very, very interested in that.
Very good. Other questions? Well, Ebony, again, I can't thank you enough. We should have done this a long time ago, but I think now you've got a tremendous organization, and I think it would be a shame not to get together and partner in numerous focal points that you brought up today.
Absolutely. Let's keep it an ongoing dialogue. I encourage anybody to contact me. I look forward to working with the leadership and figuring out how we can extend the impact, which is the goal.
Just for your information, we're writing our competitive renewal now, due
Okay.
August of 2019. So
let's write it in right now. Exactly.
We would love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.